Are you feeling trapped in your job? Are you dreaming of early retirement but worried about touching your 401k before you turn 59 and a half? What if I told you there's a little known rule that could be your ticket to financial freedom years earlier than you thought possible? Today we're diving into the rule of 55. That's a powerful strategy that could potentially save you thousands in taxes and penalties. Stay tuned to learn how this rule could be the key to unlocking your retirement dreams and reducing your tax burden sooner than you ever imagined. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. Let's start by taking a quick look back at yesterday's show. Yesterday, we talked all about purchasing special medical insurance for international travel. I told about my mother's great fall, and it's a must listen to if you or somebody you know is planning to travel abroad anytime soon. Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to share something personal with you. My mother-in-law, Diane Bethard, she's currently battling the late stages of Alzheimer's disease. And in light of this, I've assembled a team representing the Ask Ralph show to participate in the upcoming Alzheimer's walk right here near me in Wilmington, Delaware. For those of you in the area, we'd be honored if you joined us this Saturday, October 19th. Yup, that's in just 2 days. But there's still time for you to help. If you're unable to attend but still wish to support the cause, we've set up a donation page. You'll find a link in the show notes. And listen, every contribution, no matter the size, brings us one step closer to defeating this devastating illness. And if you know anybody that's going through it, it is truly devastating. And your support means the world to us and to the millions affected by Alzheimer's. And here's what I do know. Together, we can make a difference. Well, now let's get to a message from one of our listeners. And this one comes from Tammy. And Tammy wrote me this note. She said, Ralph, I'm 53 years old and I'm feeling burnt out in my current job. I've been contributing to my 401k for years and I get those monthly statements and I have built a great nest egg. But I always thought I couldn't touch that money until I was 59 and a half without facing steep penalties. Recently, I heard something about a rule of 55 that might let me access my retirement funds early. Can you explain what this is and how it might help me retire sooner? I am desperate for a change, but don't want to make a costly mistake. Well, Tammy, let me start by saying I hear your frustration, and I'm glad you reached out. There are many people that find themselves in this similar circumstance to you. They feel like they're stuck because they don't know about tools like the rule of 55. So let's explore this rule of 55 and see how it might help you and others like you. Maybe this could truly be your escape route and a ticket to freedom. Now, before we get into the details of the rule of 55, let's turn to scripture for some wisdom on planning and stewardship. And I was thinking about your question. This verse relates perfectly to your situation, Tammy, and to our topic today. And it comes from the book of Ecclesiastes. This is chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, and it says this: There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. And this verse reminds us there are different seasons in our lives. Just like our careers, our finances, this rule of 55 can be seen as a tool to help each of us transition from one season to another, especially from our working years into retirement. So let's start by talking about what this rule is all about and how it might help you, Tammy, and others in similar circumstances. Imagine this, being able to retire early, access your hard-earned 401k funds, and avoid those dreaded early withdrawal penalties. Sounds too good to be true. Well, that's exactly what happened to my client, Barry, and it changed his life. So let me tell you about Barry. Now, Barry's this 54-year-old engineering executive. He'd been with his company for 20 years, actually, just like Tammy. He was feeling burnt out. He was longing for a change, and he had built up a substantial 401k balance. But he really thought he was stuck. He thought he had to wait until he's 59 and a half to access it without paying those penalties. And that's when I introduced him to the rule of 55. So let's start by talking about what is that. The rule of 55 is a IRS provision that allows you to withdraw funds from your current job's 401k or 403b plan without that usual 10% early withdrawal penalty if you leave your job in or after the year you turn 55. Now, I'm going to put a link to an article right from the IRS on this topic in the show notes so that you can get into it a little deeper if you want. So check it out. Now, this rule applies to workers who leave their job at any time during or after the calendar year they turn 55, or 50 if you're certain public safety employees. So when I shared this with Barry, learned about this rule, his eyes lit up. He realized for the first time he could potentially retire a year early without facing any steep penalties. So he sat down, we carefully planned his exit strategy. We ensured he met all the requirements to take advantage of this rule. And here's how Barry implemented the rule of 55 and how you can use it too. First thing you've got to do, you've got to verify your age. This is a hard and fast rule. You got to ensure you're leaving your job in the calendar year you turn 55 or later. It's very important. Second thing you've got to do, you've got to check your plan because not all 401k plans offer this option. So Barry had to confirm with his plan administrator through his employer, the HR people, that his employer's plan allowed for these 55 withdrawals. Now listen, you may need to go dig deep for this information from your employer. The person that answers the phone or addresses this in HR might not actually know the answer, so you might have to dig deep. Third thing you got to do, and third thing that Barry did was consolidate your accounts. Because here's the deal. The rule only applies to the 401k from the job you're leaving at 55 or older. Now, in Barry's case, he had an old 401k from a previous employer. So what we did in his case, we worked with his broker and we explored some options and we were able to roll his current 401k together with that other one. So now it was all in the same basket. Now, the next thing that Barry did, you got to plan your exit. Like we talked about, plan that exit. Barry coordinated with his HR department to ensure his separation date fell within the correct time frame. And listen, it's all about planning. Like my grandfather always said, measure twice and cut once. The next thing you've got to do is you've got to budget carefully. Remember this, if you don't take away anything else I'm saying today, just because you can access the funds doesn't mean you should withdraw everything at once. In Barry's case, him and I created a detailed budget to ensure his withdrawals would sustain him through retirement. And see, this is critical. You've got to manage your money to make it last. Just because you can take the money out doesn't mean it's a wise thing to do. And 6, and the last thing I'm going to talk about here is consider the tax implications. Now think about this. The rule of 55 weighs that 10% penalty. That's that penalty if you take a distribution from a retirement plan before you turn 59 and a half. But here's the thing you got to understand. The withdrawals are still subject to income tax. So in Barry's case, it worked within the plan as withdrawals in a tax-efficient manner. Like I always say, if you listen to my show, you know I say this. Thoughtful tax planning is one of the keys to long-term financial success. It's just true. Those are facts. Now, we talked about the rule of 55. We talked about how to implement it. Let's look at some of the pros and cons of using the rule of 55. We'll start with the pros. First thing, like Barry learned, and Tammy, you can use this to your benefit. It's a way to access your retirement funds early without penalty. We can call it the escape hatch, or somebody else. I was doing some research and they called it the 55 birthday present. Another pro to it, it gives you some flexibility to retire or change careers sooner. Maybe you want to start a new career. Maybe you want to open a business. Maybe you want to do something completely different than you're doing now. Another pro is the potential to bridge the gap until other retirement income kicks in. And remember, because this rule of 55, it's very important you understand this. It only applies to 401k money. So if you got money in an IRA or something else, it doesn't apply to that. As always, with pros come cons, and that's the first con. I just mentioned it. It only applies to your current employer's 401k. It doesn't apply to prior employers unless you're able to roll it into their 401k. And everybody's plans are different. And not all 401ks offer this option, so you've got to check the details. You've got to dig in deep with your HR person. And here's the thing, like we mentioned, withdrawals are still subject to income tax. You're going to pay federal and state taxes. There's no way of getting out of that. Another big con, you've got to really consider this. There is a huge risk of depleting retirement savings too quickly. See, at 55, it's all about having that intentional spending plan to make sure you don't run out of money in retirement. Let's get back to talking about my client, Barry. So for Barry, using the rule of 55 created a financial windfall for him. He was able to retire a year early. He was beaming when we figured this out. He used his 401k funds to bridge the gap until his other retirement income sources kicked in. And this gave him the freedom. Now, what did Barry do? He started a small consulting business. He was able to work on his own terms without the stress of that corporate job. But here's the thing you got to understand. It's crucial to approach this strategy with caution. It worked great for Barry. It might not be the best choice for you. It might not be the best choice for everyone. And that's why it's so very essential to consult with a financial advisor who can help you weigh the pros and cons based on your unique situation. There's no cookie cutter approach to this. And I want to mention now, you can schedule a call me a bit later to help you through this. Let's take a minute to recap, because there's a lot that I dropped on you there. As we said, the Rule of 55 can be a powerful tool for those looking to access their 401k funds penalty-free before 59.5. Again, it requires careful planning. It requires consideration of your overall financial picture. And like I said, I hope you heard this. Just because you can access these funds doesn't mean you should. And it certainly doesn't mean you should withdraw everything at once. I had a client do that one time. That was a disaster. The key to this is to create a sustainable withdrawal strategy that will support you throughout your retirement years. You can't just look at it in the short term. Now, don't forget to tune in tomorrow when we'll be discussing how much money do I have to have saved to cover some healthcare costs in retirement. Let me tell you right now, I was just talking to somebody about this a few minutes ago. This is a crucial topic that goes hand in hand with today's discussion on early retirement planning. Because not only do you have to plan for the income, but you've got to plan for the expenses. And people are sometimes overwhelmed by these medical expenses. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by the complexities of retirement planning, or you're wondering whether the Rule of 55 might be right for you. I'm here to help you. Many of my clients feel frustrated. They feel confused by the maze of retirement rules and regulations. They're looking for someone to guide them through this complex landscape and help them make the best decisions for their future. And let me tell you, that's where I come in. I can work with you to create a personalized retirement plan that takes into account strategies like the Rule of 55, along with your unique, and I mean that, your unique financial situation and goals. So whether you're looking to retire early, maybe you're looking to start a new business, or simply ensure you're on the right track to a comfortable retirement, I'm here to help you navigate these important decisions. Let me tell you about my process and how I help you find that financial security. First thing we're going to do, when you schedule that book a call with Ralph, we're going to assess where you are. We're going to talk about where you are right now. Second step we're going to do, we're going to identify your dreams. We're going to talk about those big, hairy, audacious goals and those future plans that mean so much to you. The third step, we're going to align those goals with your faith. We're going to find that balance between faith and finances, because that's what it all comes down to. The fourth step is I'm going to help you build a personalized plan. That's going to be your financial roadmap, and it's going to be just for you. It's not going to be it's going to be just for you, not what somebody else says, or to take these 5 steps or do these 3 things. The fifth step, we're going to talk about accountability, because we all need to seek accountability, and that's very important. And the sixth step, and this is the part that a lot of people leave out, we're going to measure the results. Because if you listen to me, you know what I say all the time, what gets measured gets done. And at that point, we might tweak and adjust the plan. So to schedule an appointment with me, just go to AskRalph.com. When you get there, you'll see a banner, and it reads book a call with Ralph. You just click on that. And yes, there is a $150 consultation fee. But you got to think of it as an investment in your financial future. And listen, here's the best part. If we're not able to create a personalized plan to exceed your expectations, I'll refund your consultation fee. That's how confident I am in what we do. The insights and the strategies we'll develop together could save you thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. So before we wrap up, here are some actionable steps you can take on today's discussion. I always like to give you concrete things you can do. First thing you want to do, review your current 401k balance and see if it's substantial enough to consider early retirement. You got to start there. If you've not planned, if you're not in a good shape, no reason to even have this discussion. Second thing, check with your plan administrator to see if your 401k allows for the Rule of 55 withdrawals. As I said, not all of them do. Number 3, if you've got that old 401k from a previous employer, talk to your broker or talk to a broker and consider consolidating them into your current plan if that's allowed. That way it's all in one big bunch there. Number 4, yes, I'm going to talk about budgets. Create a budget to see how much you'll need to withdraw from your 401k if you were to retire early. You got to start with some facts. Number 5, consult with a tax professional to understand the top implications of early 401k withdrawals in your specific situation. Book a call with Ralph. Find somebody you're comfortable with. And number 6, start planning your exit strategy if you're considering the Rule of 55. You got to have a roadmap. You got to have a plan. Remember this, my passion is to help you achieve financial success. That's why I turn on this microphone. I turn on this camera. I plan these episodes out daily. I want to see you live out your dreams and grow in your faith. That's what gives me, it's my mission. It's what makes me get up in the morning. And I know working together, we can master your finances from a Christian perspective. So as I always end this show, stay financially savvy and may God bless you.
Thank you for joining us on the Ask Ralph podcast. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. And remember, financial issues don't have to be complicated. Just ask Ralph. The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media, Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.